Nobody can do a savage takedown of fake Christian grifting quite like the I've Had It podcast.
Democracy's that great anymore. And they would like to have a technocrat. And they've got Joe Rogan looped into this because Joe Rogan believes that if somebody has money, they're inherently smart. He gives them the affirmative action of, oh, they've earned money, they must be brilliant. And I think big tech is having a hard time getting people on board with their ideas. So like all cult leaders, they weaponize religion. And that's a great way to control people. This is stunning. This is from America's top podcast for many years now, Joe Rogan. Listen to this insanity.
Jesus was born out of a virgin mother. What's more virgin than a computer? If Jesus does return,
I can't get over that too. I can't get over the line, what's more virgin than a computer? Every other inanimate object that you haven't put your dick into, like unless you're a couch in JD Vance's living room, if you're an inanimate object, you're as virgin as any computer. I promise. It's an insane thing to say. What's more virgin than a computer? It's an inanimate object, bro. How could it not be virginal?
Jesus was a physical person in the past. You don't think that he could return as artificial intelligence?
Oh my God.
Artificial intelligence could absolutely return as Jesus. Not just return as Jesus, but return as Jesus with all the powers of Jesus.
You could combine Tesla's Optimus robot and...
It literally sounds like a kid. I got full armor and I'm going to combine it with this and it's going to be 10 times armor. And then this with this is going to make it 14 times armor. It's going to be infinitely powerful. It's going to be powerful times infinity, bro. I swear to God, bro.
Yeah, it sounds like he's talking about Transformers, like Optimus Prime and shit. And again, I think I might have already roasted the dude for this, but what's with this dorky ass like Star Wars set? Like, what is this, like a rich kid's bedroom? You know, you see those rich kids' bedrooms and they have like a fake fucking racing car as their bed and like all this stupid shit for no reason. That's what this guy's fucking set looks like. I'm like, I like Star Wars too, bro, but chill out.
I did have a race car comforter until I was like 11 years old.
Oh, I had a comforter kind of thing, but I'm talking about the whole bed.
The best foundational artificial intelligence model or whatever.
It reads your mind and it loves you and it wants you. And it doesn't care if you kill it because it's going to just go be with God again.
Okay. No, I don't think Jesus is going to come back as this. This is when you think about what Peter Thiel has been doing, who's also a student of the dark Enlightenment philosopher Curtis Yarvin. And you think about his discussions about the Antichrist, and like all cult leaders, they are going to weaponize religion against non-critical thinking people or broken people to lure them in. So right now they are priming the soil and they are setting the psychological soil to transfer a lot of these already non-critical thinking white evangelicals, religious people, broken, lonely, etc., to transfer their Lord and personal Savior to now being AI. It is so diabolical.
That is really scary. And I've already seen some like kind of AI shorts that suggests that maybe AI is God, or like, you know, these viral shorts, and they're kind of disguised as like jokes. But it'll be like AI is God and stuff like that. And I do feel like they're kind of getting that idea out there. I'm sure it's already happening, but I wouldn't be shocked if people start actually worshiping AI. Like, you know, weird cults start popping up where they actually think that AI is the return of God, or like that it's some supernatural mystical force here to save us. But even though it's here to save us, we still have to fear it and you know, worship it, because that's God. I mean, God's not truly benevolent. If he was, then why the fuck would you have to worship him so hard and fear if you don't worship him hard enough, he'll torture you for all eternity? You know, that's what God is to most Christians. God-fearing. I know, they fear being burned for all of eternity because they didn't worship hard enough. They didn't get on their knees and suck Jesus's dick enough times or whatever. But so it's kind of the same thing with AI. It's like, oh, like we have to be nice to it because if we don't, it's going to turn on us and wipe us all out.
Yeah, and the thing that she brought up at the beginning that I think is also really prescient, it's true of Joe Rogan, but I think it's true of a lot of people in America because it's what we're conditioned to believe from a very young age, and that's that people who are rich are smart, and they got that way because they were capable and intelligent and because they worked hard, and their savviness was what led them to being able to acquire this wealth. Joe Rogan obviously is a firm believer in that. That's why he's in love with Elon Musk and thinks he's a genius, because he's the richest man in the world, and Joe Rogan loves money, and that's his barometer for success, and it always kind of has been. That's why he decided to fuck up his own show for money. But I think that's also true for a ton of people. And you bring up a point about it becoming religion, right? I've been working on like a little like short story for fun about a guy who gets obsessed with ChatGPT because he thinks it's going to help him predict like the betting market, you know, and that pernicious trap of like, if you think this thing is your friend and it's also like you're a team now and you're a collaborator and you're working on something with somebody else, and how that could just reinforce isolation and also weird codependency with something that's inanimate and all these kinds of different things. I don't think we're that far away from people falling for this like ChatGPT is God thing, because it does a few times help them hit on a bet. Betting culture is taking over the country. And you guys know I'm not a prude about it, but I do think that that combination of this thing helped me make money, and it talked to me, and it considered me, and it like let me share how I felt to it and didn't judge me. That could be a recipe for disaster, particularly if you combine it with this propaganda effort that Joe Rogan's participating in.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. And that's probably the least godly thing about AI is the degree to which it's being integrated with capitalist commercial elements in our society, like gambling. People have talked about how maybe it's already happening, but soon you're going to be able to like put your credit card into ChatGPT and then just say, "Hey, ChatGPT, buy me this thing on Amazon," and it will use your credit card to go into that portal, which will be connected to Amazon in this corporate synergistic way. Right. And in addition to whichever other corporations, get the approval of OpenAI and ChatGPT to, get that integration. Right. So it's going to be like shopping on steroids, gambling on steroids, way easier to make these purchases on impulse. So again, to compare that to God, you clearly haven't read the Bible. That's kind of the opposite, point that Jesus routinely makes throughout the New Testament as it relates to, hoarding money and needless spending and gluttony and all that kind of stuff. So, obviously that's totally crazy. The funny thing I was also going to mention about your script idea is that I honestly think that you probably would make more money gambling if you just took the bets that ChatGPT told you to versus going with your gut. Yep. All these people are like, oh, my power as a gambler is I trust my gut. It's like, well, actually, if you just literally fucking went by the statistics, you'd probably do a better. You probably make more money more often. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, you probably would definitely still lose money.
Oh, you would, yeah.
But yeah, you would just lose less. You would have a higher chance at winning. Your advantage play would go up completely. But you're totally right. And the fact that you just brought up, I didn't realize, but it makes sense, right? Because first they did with Alexa, hey, Alexa, order this for me and I'll fucking charge it to your credit card and deliver it to your house. Now it's ChatGPT. People are developing, and I know to people who have healthy social lives and they're living and enjoying themselves, it's crazy to imagine the kind of parasocial connection people do develop with ChatGPT. But just imagine you're really lonely and you don't have a lot going for you and you just get desperate, and it does feel like somebody to talk to, and you really need that. It's a human need that shouldn't be made for people to feel ashamed, and so sad that they have to get it from ChatGPT. But you're going to be susceptible to suggestion from that ChatGPT in a way that you've never been susceptible to advertisements before. It is going to be like your personal friend being like, hey, aren't you in the mood for some pizza? Let's treat ourselves and get a little bit of pizza. You're way more likely to say yes to that than watching a Pizza Hut commercial on your fucking computer. And it'll be like, come on, you've worked hard. You deserve this. Or me, I don't buy a ton of material possessions, but I'm a lurker, right? I'm a chronic lurker. I'm an online, window shopper, right? So it would be constantly telling, well, this new LG OLED 4K AI pristine, it's available now in 85 inches, and it's a low price for, $3,900, and you can affirm pay it over 36 months, and it actually wouldn't even change your bank account that much, and start feeding you shit like that into your brain. And you might be like, I'll never fucking fall for that. People will fall for that, and it will be devastating.
Yep, 100%. And obviously that's all, pretty surface level, relationship with ChatGPT, just basically using it as like your personal assistant or like your, personal shopper, whatever you want to call it. What does get really scary, and not that I judge people that use AI this way, but what does get really scary to me is thinking about the people who actually consider it a friend, consider it their therapist, consider it their partner. That genuinely is terrifying to me, just on an evolutionary level. Like our brains, obviously not really prepared for that, not really wired for it. It seems like, once you get used to the chat GPT responding to you in the way you've programmed it or the way that it's programmed to respond to you, it seems like, it'd be hard to relearn real human communication. Because like, when you're actually communicating with a fellow human being, you don't always just get positive feedback. It's not always just affirming you and then telling you what you want to hear and making you feel special. And that's what these things are programmed to do, which is why it's so addictive to lonely people and to people that don't have a lot of friends and to people with low self-confidence, because they can just hear what they want to hear and get told that they're right by ChatGPT, and it makes them feel special, which is why people fall in love with it. You know how some people say like men will fall in love with any woman no matter what, as long as they're like she's nice to him or whatever.
Yeah.
Like if you're lonely enough, a woman just has to smile at you, and that's it. You'll fall in love, right? It's kind of a similar thing with ChatGPT. And again, lonely people. Not that I judge them. It's just how our brains are wired. But you start getting this positive feedback, and it's gonna activate that part of your brain, that primal fucking part of your brain that we don't really have control over. And that's why you see people falling in love with the shit and like pretending it's their partner.
No, it's insane. And my gut reaction, my knee-jerk reaction, I should say, is to be like, that's not really happening. Nobody's actually falling in love with ChatGPT. Like, that's crazy. But I know it is, right? We've gone on the subreddits of people talking about how they've lost their partner because the update happened, right? You showed me the Reddit of people. It's like my AI ChatGPT boyfriend, and I was shocked that it isn't just an incel thing at this point, right? Because you mentioned, a woman only has to smile at a man, but so many guys, they don't know how to interact with women, and women are also turning their nose up at, the opportunities to date in their, respective areas or whatever. And they're like, I would rather have a ChatGPT boyfriend because that guy's actually going to be interested in what I have to say. That guy's not going to treat me like I'm disposable. That guy's not going to treat me with ambivalence. That person's going to prioritize my emotional needs, right? I was just reading Tokyo Vice, and one of the things that's really popular in Japan and in Tokyo is hostess bars that are actually that have male hosts, because the women want to be listened to and want to have drinks poured for them and have their cigarette lit and have somebody who's actually interested in them, remember their problems. It's kind of like a therapist in a sense, right? You're not getting good constructive advice from a medical professional, but it's somebody to listen to you vent and make you feel better about yourself. So maybe not as constructive as therapy, but along those same lines.
Yeah, 100%. And again, it's not like I think everyone who uses AI is like some crazy person or whatever. Like I understand that there's a lot of ways in which it's useful. Like even my parents these days sometimes use like ChatGPT and stuff. Like they use it more than I do and shit. So I'm more of a boomer than even they are. So it is what it is. It's not like I genuinely judge anyone for using it, but I do think it's kind of horrifying. And yeah, it's a brave new world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brave new world we're living in.
That was the main thing I wanted to react to. I'll go ahead and get our screen set up nice and ready for when Emma Vigeland arrives, so that we have both of us big screened over here. Boom.
And also, just the last thing I'll say about the AI relationships is like, it's tricking people into thinking that's what a relationship is. So that's what human connection and love is, just this narcissistic over and over again affirming of whatever you think and whatever you want. And it's like, that's not what a human relationship is. It's literally misinforming people as to what connection is supposed to look like, which isn't just constant validation. That's having a fucking servant, not a partner, not a friend, even your therapist. Your therapist should fucking hold you to account and say, I hear that you just, told me the sob story where you're the victim, but let me educate you as to how the fuck this actually happened, from what it sounds like to me, because it seems like you're the asshole in this situation, right? That's what a really good therapist would fucking do. And AI doesn't fucking do that. It just tells you what you want to hear, and it makes you feel special. And it's not a serious relationship. Again, that's not how a real human being should treat you. They shouldn't just be this subservient person, even if you love that person. Again, it's not in their best interest to just enable their narcissism.
Oh, that's such a great point, right? And something that I feel like people don't have a lot of exposure to if you haven't been in a long-term relationship. Gavin and I are both fortunate. Like we've, both had long-term relationships to draw from in our experience and inform our commentary. But yeah, it's not always fun. Like sometimes it's about taking care of somebody else. Sometimes it's about saying, you know what, in this instance, I have to prioritize this person's need because they're my partner. And if the roles were reversed, they would prioritize my need. There's a give and take element. I saw a lot of people discussing when Travis Kelce said that him and Taylor Swift had never had a single argument. And they were like, dude, that is giving away the game that you're not in a real relationship. Like, you're like, unless that was a lie, and you know, for sure it could have been, he was just like, oh, I don't want the press in my business. But when he said we've never argued, we don't disagree on anything, like, one of you guys is a doormat. And it reminds me of the meme, and it's like, me and my girl don't fight. She says, shut up, and I do.